students with, they call them, mental disabilities or disorders, right? When really it's not a disorder. I'm just a growing 13-year-old boy going through puberty, right? And my attention is not being captured the right way. So
yeah, it's terrible. They tried giving me Adderall in like 4th grade, dude.
Yeah.
Imagine
Really?
like a 10-year-old.
Wow.
Yeah, it's like, are you serious? Welcome back to the Digital Social Hour, guys. I'm your host, Sean Kelly. Got with me a very interesting guest for you guys today, Zac Gulbranson. How's it going?
Good, man. Good. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, can't wait to dive into your story. You got a pretty incredible journey.
Yes. Yeah. It's been crazy. Yeah, pretty excited to be here, though. I've definitely watched a lot of the clips, the episodes, the page. Yeah, I like what you guys got going on.
Yeah, so walk me through the start. Like, what were you like growing up? Like, what was the family dynamic like as a kid? And I want to learn like who you were early on.
Yeah. So basically, I mean, growing up, I had, both my parents were together. I had 2 sisters, and I was the middle child. So, big thing is like I always kind of felt like I longed for like a brother, a male figure. My dad was working a lot, where he was gone for, weeks at a time. So, for me, that obviously put a toll on me just being at home with, two women all the time. So yeah, I started to attach to people that were, outside of the family. And a lot of them became, kind of bad influences on me, but, obviously like, which we'll get into my story a little bit more as we go, but, a lot of that just came from, just wanting to kind of be noticed or have some sort of like a brother, father figure around.
Yeah, they're doing a lot of studies on like kids growing up without father figures and how impactful it actually is.
Yeah. So I just want to be clear. My dad was there, just wasn't there a lot.
Right. He was working a lot.
Yeah, exactly. So he drives truck, so he would leave for like 2 weeks at a time. Yeah. Come home for like a day, but he would be just so tired. You know? He would literally just sleep. I remember he'd just sleep in his chair, like all day, the day or two that he was home, and then he'd take off again. So I remember like vividly throwing the football up to myself a few times. Now, obviously I don't want to make it seem like I completely didn't have a dad, because there are obviously people out there that are going to be like, look at this guy. Like he actually had a dad like that was there like a couple of days. I had no dad, but I mean, I feel like, just the attachment to some sort of, father figure, I was looking for, but we're cool now.
Nice.
And things are good, but by the time he started to be home a lot, I was out of the house, I was out of the house at like 16. So, wow. So I left pretty early, and just got to live in the lifestyle. Nice.
So 16, you're in high school, you leave the house. Where are you at from there?
So, I had a good friend, and he had 3 brothers. So obviously me being middle child with 2 girls and my mom, I became really good friends with him. And he had 3 brothers. So I was always there, like constantly. I think I would go to my house maybe like once a week.
That's it?
Maybe.
Wow.
Yeah, probably like.
Oh, so you were already sleeping there pretty much.
I was sleeping there, living there. I considered them my family, my brothers. So, I found kind of like the brother or father figure in them. Unfortunately, they weren't doing the best things, right? They were, selling drugs and making money that way, and doing other things that obviously are not looked at, as good things to do, I guess you could say, looking back on it now. But then during that time, I was like, man, this is what I wanted. This is definitely what I wanted. And that, being, I feel like I didn't have anyone to look up to. I looked up to the wrong people, right? So I would look up to them, and they were, making money and had a lot of girls around, and, new cars and things like this. And And then obviously they would go to jail for a little bit and they'd get out, and I just thought it was normal. Like that's just what became normal to me. So, you know, I just found myself in just a lot of trouble because of that.
All right. So are you going to school at this time, or you dropped out?
Yeah. So I was going to school.
Okay.
Yeah. I was pretty smart all through school. So the big thing is like I never really struggled. I got prescribed Adderall in ninth grade because the teacher actually was like, hey, your son can't sit still, and he's always getting up and going around and sitting next to girls and talking to girls.
Yeah.
And so they did an evaluation. They came back. They said he's got ADHD. They put me on Adderall. And obviously at that age, and this is a big thing that I feel like is wrong with like big pharma and the medication and prescription industry is they label someone so quick when really you got to think like a 13-year-old boy, that is not being fulfilled, or my attention is not being, gravitated towards what the teacher is talking about.
Yeah.
Like I'm not interested in it.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? So I'm going to get up and I'm going to go sit next to girls, which I am interested in.
For sure. Yeah.
So like, and I think that's just a normal thing, but they're so quick to throw medication because obviously that's how they make money. And these teachers are actually looked at as good people for reporting kids. Hey, I think your son might have ADHD. We should get him checked out. Yeah. They actually get praised for doing that.
I wouldn't be surprised if they even get a kickback, honestly.
They might get a kickback because you got to think about it. The big thing is people or teachers, right? They get not only praise because they're like, wow, this teacher's not only looking, teaching the class, but they're also looking to help, students with, they call them, mental disabilities or disorders, right? When really it's not a disorder. I'm just a growing 13-year-old boy going through puberty, right? And my attention is not being captured the right way. So
yeah, it's terrible. They tried giving me Adderall in like 4th grade, dude.
Yeah.
Imagine
really?
like a 10-year-old.
Wow.
Yeah, it's like, are you serious?
Yeah.
And like, thank God my mom talked him out of it. My dad wanted me on it.
Yeah.
And honestly, like in high school, it was kind of like a cool thing to be on those.
Oh yeah, 100%. And honestly, that's like what I feel like it was kind of the gateway to other things, because what happened is I got on them and I was doing really good in school. Like I didn't have, I feel like I'm pretty naturally smart. So, the schoolwork came easy. I'd pay girls to do like my test or my homework for me. And I'd come in and just ace the test, like not even knowing anything. So like it came pretty easy, but, it was the gateway because what happened is I got Adderall, and then what did I do? I started selling it to other kids in school. Right. Where, I became known as like, oh yeah, Zach has Adderall, right? And then they would come to me like, hey, do you have this or do you have that, right? So then I'm like, no, but I can get it. I'll look around for it, right? Yeah. So, and obviously, being just around that crowd, I would just became known as that person. So I feel like I always had to kind of live up to that persona, growing up, which inevitably was not good. Yeah. But I'm still to this day, and I'll say it, forever. I'm still to this day so glad that I went through every single thing that I went through, because I wouldn't be where I'm at today without having going through those things.
Yeah, everything happens for a reason, right?
Yeah.
So how high of a level were you getting to? Like, did you keep doing it after high school?
Oh yeah. So like basically I started selling Adderall in 9th grade, which also turned me into pain pills. Started getting those. Funny story, or not, I shouldn't say funny, but a story. My good friend in school, his dad was a professional skier, and he had broken every single bone in his body. So he had OxyContin, and my buddy came to me. He's like, yeah, dude, my dad has a whole bottle. I can get him for you. And I was like, cool, yeah, let's do it. So he gets them for me, and they're like the real, like OC, like the original back in the day that obviously now they got discontinued because, you could smoke them and all that, and they're just super strong. But I got those, and then I kept a pill cutter in my locker and just would cut it into fourths and just sell a fourth for like $20. And we're in 9th grade, and you're selling, one pill for $80, right? Making $80 because you're selling each quarter for $20. Dude, you're balling. You know what I mean?
At that age, yeah.
Oh yeah, ninth grade. And the big thing is like, everyone was, then they just kept coming to me for more things. And then, I ended up getting pretty heavily addicted to pain pills in ninth grade. And then by 10th grade, I wouldn't even go to school unless I had pain pills to wake up to.
Whoa.
Just because I would get sick. And going through something like this at such a young age was like, it was crazy. And everyone that I tell this story to, they're like, man, that is young, because I went right in from that, and luckily made it through. And then in 11th grade, still heavily addicted to pain pills, still selling my Adderall. 11th grade, I got kicked out of school for selling coke in the bathroom. They would look at the cameras during like the break hours, and they would see 5-6 people going to the bathroom with me after every hour. And we were going in there and doing lines and things like that. So, they ended up bringing in like the cops and searching my locker. And then, I think a few kids even like told on me. So this is in 11th grade.
Yeah.
And then, at this time, I'm in sports. I'm in like basketball.
Yeah.
And the crazy thing is they kicked me off of all sports, right? They said, you can't do any sports anymore. I think they expelled or suspended me for, I think it was 30 days. And then obviously coming back to school, everyone knows what happened, right?
Yeah.
And then at this time, I'm still taking pain pills and still on my Adderall. Obviously, I'd gotten in trouble for like the coke. They sent me to take a urine analysis, right? And my mom is there, and I still shut my mom out for this. Like, even though she knew what I was doing was wrong, but she looked at me and she's like, "Did you do it?" And I was like, "Yeah, I did." And then she went into the principal office and she was just like, "My son would never do that. He would never do that." Yeah, because obviously that's my mom, right?
Yeah.
So obviously I got home and I still got she obviously cared, right?
Yeah.
She was like, "Hey, we need to get."
So she didn't know you were selling any of this?
She didn't know I was selling. She knew that I think she had an idea I was using.
Yeah.
But at that time, my addiction to pain pills got really bad. I ended up going to treatment. My first rehab when I was in 12th grade. I got sent. I went off to rehab. So, and that was my first one. And then I went like 5 other times.
Holy.
After that. But yeah, so it's been a long road.
Yeah.
But yeah, after high school, I got into. I couldn't find pain pills, so I ended up found into that, and then obviously anything that I would get, I would start selling, because I was like,
to offset the cost.
I don't want to be spending all my money on this. I'm going to sell it, so I would always start selling whatever I was using, and then I started getting into other things like and things like that, and then I'd say fast forward like 5-6 years. I've been in and out of like about 5 rehabs, and then in and out of jail a bunch of times. And then when I was 23, I went to prison for about 8 months. Yeah. So and then I got out, continued in the lifestyle, because it was the environment for me.
Right.
I was more addicted to the lifestyle and being known as the guy, and with the connections, and and I thought people looked up to me for that, which is crazy, but crazy to think and look back on now. But and then I got out of prison and started. I think I lasted like 30 days, about 30, 45 days, and then I started using and selling again, and to make money, because I got a job and I was making nothing. Right? I think I got a job at like Taco Bell or something like
$7
that,
an hour.
and I was like, what the hell is this? Like, I can't do this. And ended up, fast forward 2 more years, or 2.5, 3 years, when I was 26. That's when everything changed. I have almost 8 years clean now.
Nice. Congrats, man.
Yeah. So I'm 33. So yeah, everything changed, and basically I just had to move away from everything.
Yeah. I can't wait to dive into that part of your story. Were you sober in prison?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you can get things in there. I think I might have done things a couple times, but Obviously, like things cost a lot of money in there.
Yeah.
Like
Money
all the-
talks in prison,
Oh
right?
yeah, like double or triple sometimes what it would cost out here.
Yeah.
And I just didn't want to get into the mix in there. And obviously sitting in there, I was like, I knew I had really screwed up. So I was like, I'd be an idiot to just keep going down this path, right?
Yeah.
Which we can get into prison a little bit more in a minute. But it was just like, it was, when I was 26 and I had a couple different events that happened like within the span of like a couple months, that I was just like, I can't do this anymore. Like I need something different, because the crazy thing is for the whole time that I was using and heavy into my addiction and, selling drugs and weight and all that, I always kept a strong relationship with God. Like I never ever veered away. And I remember that I would pray to him like, hey, please help me like find a new way or get out of this, because I knew that I was meant for greatness.
Wow.
I just didn't know how to get it. I just didn't know where to go or what to do, or like I feel like I always was very held back, and that's why I have a tattoo on my arm of it's an eye with jail bars. Like, so I feel like my vision was very clouded, and I felt kind of locked behind that clouded vision, and I just didn't know where to go and who to turn to and everything to make it happen.
Yeah. And you talk about like finding your purpose. Did you manage to find yours in prison, or was it after?
It was after. In prison, I was still young, 23. I was still like, I had thoughts of like, hey, I want to change. Obviously, who's not? You're in prison. You're locked behind bars. You can't, you don't really have options to do anything else, right?
Yeah.
But in there, I learned a lot of good lessons. And one of those was, who to surround myself with and who not to. Like I could see in there pretty easily why people were in prison.
Yeah.
Like you go in there and like pretty quickly you're like, okay, this guy needs to be here. You know what I mean? And then you look at yourself and you're like, why am I here? Right? I'm nothing like these people.
Yeah.
Right. And you start to question yourself and you're like, man, this is not, I wouldn't want someone coming in here and looking at me like, why am I around this guy? I'm not meant to be like this, right? So when you put yourself in the outside perspective like that, and you start to question like, would I look up to me? Then I was starting to be like, because I felt like I was looked up to when I was out there using and selling drugs, but really, I was just looked up to because I had drugs.
Yeah,
that's really it, right? And I felt like a lot of the relationships that I had with people and friends and girls, and it was all fake. Because it was just all, they were reliant on, they just wanted to hang out with me because I had drugs. That's it, period. Right. So it's like, but I started to realize a lot of things in prison that led me to inevitably, 2 years later after up some more, to really, really changing everything. There was a couple different events that happened.
Nice. Yeah. That's kind of how I felt with high school. I felt like girls were kind of using me just to smoke for free.
Right.
A lot of girls do that.
Oh yeah, 100%. And it's crazy, just the different things that people will, make up to be around you or different things like that.
Yeah. So you mentioned there was a moment earlier. What was that specific moment you were talking about?
So the moment when I changed everything.
Yeah.
So basically, it was probably the height of everything. My addiction, I had overdosed about 3 or 4 times. I was in the back of one overdose. Actually, I was in the back of an ambulance. My roommate had called the ambulance because I fell down, smacked my head on the ground, started bleeding. I don't know if I was conscious or not, but he called the ambulance and woke up in the back of an ambulance. Before I woke up, I just seen this rope like flying in front of my face. And I was trying to move my arms out, and I couldn't grab it. It was this rope that it was going super fast in front of my face, and I couldn't grab the rope. I couldn't get my arms to grab the rope, and I was trying so hard. And then finally I got enough strength to grab the rope, and that's when I woke up. And what I still think to this day is that I was dying. I was literally like going down, like I was dying, and then they revived me, and that's when I was able to grab the rope.
Yeah,
So,
people with near-death experiences have similar stories of that.
yeah, it was wild. But so then, overdoses and being locked up, and I was just tired of it. And at the time, in the height of everything, and I kept knowing that I was meant for greatness. I just didn't know what I was doing. Like my family at this point, I had lost their trust so many times. I kept telling them I'd change when I went to rehab, and I knew that I was just there to, for them. I wasn't there for me. So a lot of people ask me, is it rehab or is it prison that changed you? And it's not. Like none of those things were what changed me. What changed me was when I was ready to be done. And basically, there's a saying, when you're tired of being sick and tired is when you'll give it up. And I was just to that point, and I was living with, just a quick story, I was living with two guys, right? I won't name names, but I was living with two guys. We're all doing the same thing, using very heavy. We had girls around. Like we had, a lot of things going on, like making a lot of money, just, different things. And I was so paranoid that I was carrying like a police scanner with me all the time, everywhere I went.
What is that?
A police scanner. It's
Yeah.
like a portable scanner that you can get that you can tap into the cops' frequency.
Oh, wow.
Basically, I did that because I was so scared that we were going to get raided, like at any time.
Oh,
right?
okay.
So one of my boys, he had a really bad thing with girls. Like he would just let girls use him like crazy.
Yeah.
And what happened is he ended up driving somewhere. I think he just had like an ounce of meth on him or something like that. But he ended up driving somewhere. He was with this girl. They ended up getting pulled over. Find out later that she was a confidential informant. So she had tipped off the cops like, hey, I'm going to be with him. I'm going to be riding with him.
Yeah.
Pull us over. They pulled him over for something about his license plate, something that a normal person would just not get pulled over for.
Right.
They pulled him over for that. He ended up going to prison.
Jeez.
He was my best friend. He ended up going to prison for 7 years. And I think it was 7 years. He served 4. He actually served, I think, 6. And then it was just me and my other buddy, right? My other roommate, really, really good friend. And we were just super paranoid because of that.
Yeah.
That instead of being smart and being like, hey, we need to change, we're just like, let's just use more drugs more heavily because like we just have to block this out, that this just happened. So he overdoses, dies right in front of me.
Holy.
And at this point in time, my family had lost all their trust in me, and basically said that they wanted nothing to do with me anymore. And to hear that, especially from people that matter so much to you, it really hits home, right? It's like where you really start questioning. I don't care how many drugs you're doing or what you're doing in life and trying to mask this or mask that, you'll feel that. It will be in your heart. You'll feel it. What happened is he ended up dying. My family wasn't talking to me. And at this time they were moving to Arizona. And so I grew up in Minnesota. And they were moving to Arizona basically to get away from me. They just couldn't be around me, even though I didn't live at home, right? I had 2 different places, but they just couldn't be around me because I would always like go and check in and acting like things were normal, and I'm just, not looking good.
Right. Yeah.
Not looking good at all, right? And I was just killing them slowly, right? Just stress.
Yeah.
And they were moving to Arizona during this time. My best friend just went to prison. My other roommate overdosed right in front of me. And at this time, I was just like, I have to do something different. So I literally hopped on the day that they were moving. I just left all my stuff there, hopped in the U-Haul with them, and drove down to Arizona. Left everything that I had, everyone that I knew, and I knew that I had to do something drastic like that, or I was going to end up in one of those 2 places, right? Prison or overdosing.
Yeah.
So I slept the whole way from Minnesota to Arizona. I think I slept for 28 hours. Like, yeah.
In one straight sitting?
Yeah. And you know what's wild is I actually was riding with my dad, and, you know, our relationship had just been so, right?
Yeah.
Like horrible, because I was resenting him. He was looking at me like, what the hell is this my son like turned into?
Yeah.
And we had such a good time to actually talk and amend our relationship.
Mm-hmm.
But I was just so strung out that I just like slept the whole way for 28 hours. We get down there, and I didn't know what I was going to do. All I knew is I had to do everything different than I've ever done before.
Yeah.
I'm a very extreme person. Like when I want something, or when I, am going towards something, I go to the extreme to get it. Right. So I knew that I had to do that, except just in the other direction.
Yeah.
Instead of running full speed backwards, I had to actually, gain my traction and run full speed forwards. Right. So, basically I went full speed, and I got down there and, just started like meeting the right people instead of meeting the wrong people.
Right.
I was very humbled, because at 25, I just had turned 26. At 26, I was living with my parents, after being out of the house since 16. So I was just very like humbled, and I was just like, all that I cared about was my family not seeing me like that anymore, and me not ending up in one of those two places. So I didn't know what I was going to do every day, but I just took it 1 hour at a time, and that's what, I feel like has been a very motivating factor for me in life, is if you don't know where to go, just accomplish today, or accomplish this hour, get through this hour, and you just keep moving one foot instead of the other. And then pretty soon, 30 days will go by, 4 months will go by, 8 months, a year. Before you know, it's 3 years, 4 or 5, and during this time that I was changing, I had accomplished so many things that I started to feel like I was recreating myself. I was able to rewrite my story.
Yeah.
And I would have, I'm like, I want people to look up to me. I want to be able to inspire people. I don't want them to look at me and they're like, yep, that's what we thought. That's kind of where we thought Zach would end up.
Yeah.
Like I want them to look up to me and be like I'm in this spot too. And if he can do it, I can do it, you know, and make changes because of that.
I love that. And I want to talk about your IG agency before we wrap up, because now you're making a ton of money. You're doing it ethically. What's that process been like?
Yeah, no, so it's good. So I've been in the sales, industry. So when I got clean, I started network marketing, did pretty well at that. The company went under. And then I started door to door. I was actually in pest control door to door for 4 years. I was the #1 rep in the industry for 2 years in that. So not just in the company, but in the industry, I broke all the records, and then I rebroke them all my 4th year. So wow. I broke my own records twice. I was the first one to ever do $1 million in revenue in pest control in the summertime. And then I just didn't see that I was growing there enough. So I ended up getting out of that, starting my Instagram agency. I moved to Miami, and in Miami, entrepreneurs all over, you got guys, that are 22 years old making 10 million a year, $1 million a month. Like it's a normal thing down there. So sure. I just got in, got around the right people and started making some really good connections, and all the while, the last 4 years, I was kind of growing my personal brand, and kind of helping people on the side do it too. And then I was like, I'm just gonna make this into a business. And I would have people come to me all the time that got their Instagram disabled or hacked or deleted or banned for just reasons that is crazy, that a lot of times are not even true, right?
Yeah.
It's just people are attacking them. A lot of businesses will get copyright and counterfeited, banned for no reason. It's just their competition's trying to take them out, right? So I would have a lot of people coming to me and they're like, "Hey, can you help me get my Instagram back?" So I started, obviously, I made some good connections and started recovering Instagrams a lot. I started making really good money and just turned that and the whole, building brands and personal pages into a business.
Nice.
And then all the while, I had, guys that I was used to being door to door with in pest control. They're shooting me checks over of what they're making in solar. And I'm like, all right, I'm making a lot of money. I'm living a good life in Miami, but like these checks are wild. They're making 60, 80K a week, not a month, like a week.
Solar's
like
nuts, bro.
They're literally making, I've seen, 60, 80, 90, I've seen 120K a week. Like they're wild. So I was like, okay. And everyone was telling me, they're like, with how good you were in door to door, you would be an idiot not to do this. Yeah. So I ended up getting into that. And then built a pretty big team, and currently I'm launching a winter program in Arizona that's going to be starting in October, December off, and going through April. Door to door for a long time has always been a summer program. So I'm going to launch the first ever winter program, and I'll link the winter program Instagram in the bio too.
Yeah, I'll put it in the description.
But yeah, so
dude, crazy.
So, got a lot going on. Super
inspired hearing your story, man. Anything you want to close off with?
No, man. I just want to say thanks for inviting me on here, and I'm honored, and I'm excited to, kind of let people know, that everything online a lot of times looks very good and things like that. And there's a lot behind the scenes, right? There's a lot that I had to go through to get here, and I feel like the goal in life is, to find your gift, and the purpose in life is to give it away.
Yeah.
Right? So, I mean, your gift is, connecting with people, and you're super smart, and, a lot of people look to you, for advice. And I feel like my gift is I have such a wild story that I'm able to use that and possibly help save lives, right? And inspire and influence a lot of people. And obviously make a lot of money and all that too. But the biggest thing is like being able to impact and change lives. Like that will leave the mark I'm looking for.
Love it. Thanks for coming on, man. It's been great. Thanks for watching, guys. See you next time.